The Bald Bandit by Ron Roy. Illustrated by John Stephen Gurney. Chapter 1. Dink slipped the plastic fangs into his mouth. He made a scary face at his best friend, Josh Pinto. "Do I look like a vampire?" It was hard to talk without spitting, so Dink took the fangs out again. Dink's full name was Donald David Duncan, but nobody called him Donald, except his mom when she was upset. Then she called him by all three names. Josh grinned. "No, you look like a skinny third grader wearing false teeth." "Wait till I put on the rest of my costume," Dink said. "Then I'll look like a vampire. Maybe you will." Josh was tearing a green bedsheet into long strips. "And maybe you won't." Dink's guinea pig, Loretta, crawled among the green strips. Every now and then she let out a curious squeak. "How will you be able to walk if you're wrapped up in all those strips?" Dink asked Josh. Josh kept tearing. "Swamp monsters don't walk," he said in a slithery voice. "They glide." "Okay, so how will you be able to glide wrapped up in all those strips?" The doorbell rang. When Dink opened the door, his next-door neighbor, Ruth Rose, was standing on the steps. "Hi, Ruth Rose. Why are you wearing a wig? Halloween isn't until tomorrow." Ruth Rose was dressed in her usual bright clothes, a pink shirt, pink pants, and pink sneakers, but on her head she wore a shiny black wig. She also had on thick fake eyebrows. Ruth Rose wiggled the fake eyebrows up and down. "Guess who I am?" Josh stared at Ruth Rose. "A hairy princess? No, Groucho Marx?" She shook her head. "Tell us, Ruth Rose," Dink said. Ruth Rose pretended to strum a guitar. "I'm Elvis," she cried. "That was my next guess," Josh said. Ruth Rose looked at his mound of green strips. "What are you supposed to be?" Josh wrapped a strip around his face. He made a swamp monster face at Ruth Rose. "Guess," he said. Ruth Rose smiled sweetly. "You're a green sheet torn into strips." The doorbell rang again. This time Dink saw a tall man standing on the doorstep. He was dressed in a suit and tie. He had dark curly hair, a droopy mustache, and a dimpled chin. "Hi there. My name is Detective Reddy. I was hired by the Green Lawn Savings Bank to find someone. Did you hear about the robbery?" Josh and Ruth Rose came to the door and stood behind Dink. Dink nodded. "I heard about it on TV. Are you looking for the robber?" Josh asked. Detective Reddy shook his head. "Right now I'm looking for someone who saw him. When the thief ran out of the bank, he took off his mask. Some kid was walking by with a video camera. He got the thief on tape. The bank hired me to find the kid so I can get the video." "What does the kid look like?" Ruth Rose asked. Detective Reddy stared at her Elvis wig. "Someone in the bank said he has red hair and he's tall and skinny." "Sounds like you, Josh," said Dink. He laughed and pointed at Josh's red hair. "It wasn't me, honest," Josh said. "I don't even have a video camera." "No, the kid was a lot older than you," said the detective. "Probably in high school." He patted his mustache. "Do you guys know anyone like that?" "No," Dink said. "But we do know Green Lawn pretty well. Maybe we can help you find him." The detective looked at the three friends. "Tell you what," he said. "Check the high school tomorrow. If you find the kid who filmed the robber, get the video. There'll be a nice reward if you hand it over." "How much?" Josh asked. "How about $100 for each of you?" $100, screamed Ruth Rose. Dink, Josh, and Detective Reddy covered their ears. "Ouch," said Detective Reddy. "That's quite a set of lungs you've got there. How can we get in touch with you if we find the kid?" Dink asked. The detective pulled out a small pad and a pencil. He wrote something and ripped off the page. "Here's my phone number. Call me if you get that video." Dink closed the door behind Detective Reddy. He grinned at Josh and Ruth Rose. $100 each, we're rich. Chapter 2. Here's the plan, Dink said. It was almost 3 o'clock the next afternoon. Dink, Josh, and Ruth Rose were headed for the high school, a few blocks away from Green Lawn Elementary. Josh, you cover the back door. Ruth Rose, your station is the bike rack, but keep an eye on the parking lot, too. How can I watch the bike rack in the parking lot? Asked Ruth Rose. Watch one with each eye, Josh said, grinning. What's your station? Ruth Rose asked Dink. I'll be watching the front door. If anyone sees a skinny redhead, stop him and yell. Ruth Rose laughed. Stop him and yell? He'll think we're crazy and run away. She's right, Josh said. Dink scratched his thick blonde hair. Okay, don't yell. Just get his name and tell him he may have won some money. They cut through the park next to the high school. What money? Josh asked. Well, if Detective Reddy is going to pay us $100 each to find the video, I figure we can give the kid half the money, but only if he gives us the video. At the high school, they split up. Josh ran around to the back of the school. Ruth Rose sat on the lawn next to the bike rack. Dink sat on a bench where he had a good view of the front door. Suddenly, he heard a loud bell. 10 seconds later, the front door burst open. 1,000,000 high school kids shoved through the door and scrambled down the front steps. Dink stood on the bench so he wouldn't get trampled. He was looking for red hair, but it wasn't easy to spot. Some of the kids had hats on. Some wore jackets or sweatshirts with the hoods pulled up. Sometimes Dink couldn't tell if a kid was a boy or a girl. Finally, he spotted a tall guy with red hair. Dink jumped off the bench and ran after him. Excuse me, Dink said, trying to catch his breath. Who are you? The redhead asked. Dink Duncan. Dink tried to remember his plan. You may have won some money. The redhead stared down at Dink. Money? Me? Why? How much money? Were you near the bank when the robbery happened last week? He asked. The kid kept staring at Dink. Robbery? What robbery? You didn't hear about it? It was on the news, on TV. Some guy robbed Green Lawn Savings Bank. So what's it to you? A kid with red hair got the robber on tape, Dink said. I'm helping to find him. There's going to be a reward. Rats, I wish I did tape the guy, the redhead said, shaking his head. I could use a reward, but I wasn't anywhere near the bank last week. He waved and headed for the park. Good luck. Dink looked around for another redhead, but everyone had disappeared. He walked toward the bike rack. Ruth Rose was sitting on the lawn weaving grass blades together. Did you see any redheads? Dink asked, plopping down beside her. 3, Ruth Rose said. One was a short, fat boy. One was a girl. One was a teacher. Josh came running up. Any luck? He asked. Nope, Dink said. How'd you do? I talked to 2 guys with red hair. One of them told me to take a hike. The other one was an exchange student from Ireland. He told me he doesn't even know where the bank is. Great, Dink said. We all struck out. Now what do we do? Josh tossed a pine cone at a tree. Beats me. We should search the whole neighborhood, Ruth Rose said. How? Dink asked. Ruth Rose stood up and dusted off her shorts. Easy. We just go door to door and ask, how can we do that without our parents finding out? Josh asked. Mine won't let me get involved with some bank robber, that's for sure. Mine either, Dink said. So how do we explain why we're wandering around Green Lawn knocking on everyone's doors? Asked Josh. Come on, guys, Ruth Rose said. Think about it. What's tonight? Dink and Josh looked at each other. Halloween. Chapter 3. With black shoe polish in his hair and plastic fangs in his mouth, Dink looked like Dracula. His mom had made him a cape from an old black raincoat. He tied the cape around his neck just as the doorbell rang. A strange creature stood on his porch. The thing was wrapped in green cloth. Tufts of red hair poked out at the top. Large black high tops stuck out at the bottom. How do I look? The thing asked. Dink took out his fangs and grinned. Like some weird vegetable. Half carrot and half asparagus. Josh shuffled inside the house. You look pretty good, Dink. I like the blood dripping down your chin. The bell dinged again. This time it was a miniature Elvis. Ruth Rose was wearing a white suit with sequins everywhere. She even carried a little guitar. Her Elvis wig made her look about 2 inches taller. Ruth Rose strummed her guitar and wiggled her hips. "Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen," she said, taking a bow. "Come on in, Elvis," Dink said. "We have to talk about Operation Redhead before we go trick-or-treating." They sat at Dink's kitchen table. A basket of candy stood waiting for the neighborhood kids. "Here's my plan," Dink said. "Every house we go to, we ask if anyone knows a skinny red-headed kid." "That's my plan," Ruth Rose said. Dink grinned. "Oh yeah, I forgot." One of Ruth Rose's black eyebrows was crooked. "We have to keep our eyes peeled. Check out tall kids trick-or-treating." "Got it," Dink said. "Anyone with red hair, we ask them if they took a video of the bank robber," Ruth Rose went on. "Check," Dink said. "Any other ideas?" "Yeah, I got a great idea," Josh said. "Let's stop talking and get moving." Dink's mother walked into the kitchen. She screamed and clutched her chest. "Oh my goodness, monsters in my kitchen!" Ruth Rose stood up. "I'm not a monster, Mrs. Duncan. I'm Elvis." Dink's mom adjusted Ruth Rose's left eyebrow. "I know, honey, you make a great Elvis, but these other two..." She shuddered and made a terrified face. "We're going now, Mom." Dink fit the plastic fangs over his teeth. He handed Josh a paper bag and took one for himself. "Please be back in 2 hours," his mother said. "Dad and I will have some cider and donuts for you." The 3 kids each took a different street. They agreed to meet back at Dink's house in about 2 hours. Dink headed down Woody Street. He looked at every tall kid in a costume, checking for red hair. But most of the kids out were shorter than him. He counted 17 ghosts, 20 little witches, 8 angels with floppy wings, and a zillion small furry animals. Dink rang Mrs. Davis's doorbell. "Trick or treat." "Oh, hello, Dink," said Mrs. Davis. She dropped a small bag of candy kisses into his sack. "Have you seen any red-headed kids tonight?" Dink asked. "Redheads?" Mrs. Davis patted her white hair. "I'm afraid I don't know anyone besides your friend Josh who has red hair." Dink thanked Mrs. Davis for the candy and walked next door to old Mr. Kramer's house. Mr. Kramer was a little deaf. "Do you know a skinny redhead?" asked Dink in a loud voice. Mr. Kramer turned one ear and leaned toward Dink. "What's that you say? A tinny red bed?" "A skinny redhead," Dink yelled even louder. He wished he had Ruth Rose with him. She was the only one loud enough for Mr. Kramer to hear. Mr. Kramer dropped a nickel in Dink's bag and slammed the door. Dink sighed. He followed some ghosts to the next house on Woody Street. A gorilla opened the door when Dink rang the bell. It had a hairy chest and a huge mouth filled with yellow teeth. "Trick or treat," said Dink. The gorilla dropped a banana into Dink's bag. "Have you seen any tall red-headed teenagers walking around?" Dink asked. The gorilla grunted and shook his head. "Thanks anyway," said Dink. 2 hours later, Dink, Josh, and Ruth Rose poured their candy onto Dink's dining room table. Dink took out his fangs. "Any luck?" he asked. Josh unwrapped his face. "I saw 4 redheads, 2 girls about 10 years old and 2 adults. No one I talked to knew a skinny redhead in high school." Ruth Rose took off her wig and eyebrows and dropped them into her plastic jack-o'-lantern. "Same here," she sighed, slumping in her chair. "Nobody knew the right redhead. And I asked everybody." Josh ripped open a miniature bag of M&Ms. "I really wanted that $100, he said. "Maybe we should just forget it. Give up after just 2 days?" "No way, you guys." Dink climbed up on the table. He wrapped his cape around his face so just his eyes showed. In his best Count Dracula voice, he said, "We will never give up." Chapter 4. The next morning, Dink's hair was stiff with black shoe polish. He shampooed 3 times before he got out of the shower. The bathroom mirror was fogged up when he tried to see his reflection. He wiped the mirror, looked at himself, and gasped. His hair wasn't its usual blonde, and it wasn't vampire black. It was a muddy brown color, like the rusty parts on his bike. "Mom, help!" His mother peeked into the bathroom. "Oh, I see." She giggled. "It's not funny, Mom. How am I supposed to go outside like this? My hair looks like it rusted." "Honey, lots of kids will have traces of makeup on their faces or color in their hair today. It's the day after Halloween." Dink rubbed a towel over his hair as hard as he could. He looked in the mirror. Now he had frizzy, rust-colored hair. "Be thankful it's Saturday," his mother said, smiling. "At least you don't have to go to school today." After breakfast, Dink jammed his baseball cap over his hair and headed for Josh's house. When Dink got there, Josh was already shooting hoops in front of his barn. He grinned at Dink. "What's wrong with your hair?" he asked. Dink yanked his hat off. "Take a look. The stupid shoe polish from last night won't wash out. I had to be a vampire, right? I couldn't just be a cowboy or an astronaut." Josh dribbled and took a shot. Josh missed the hoop. "So have you thought of a plan for finding that kid with the video?" Josh asked. "No," said Dink, jamming his hat back over his hair. "Well, what do we do now?" said Josh. "Ask at more houses?" "I don't know," Dink said. "Now that Halloween is over, we'd look pretty suspicious. Besides, Green Lawn has hundreds of houses. We'd be knocking on doors for a month." Josh made a perfect shot. 2 points. "We have to use our heads instead of our feet," Dink said, grabbing the ball after Josh's basket. A door slammed behind them. "Uh-oh," Josh mumbled. "Josh, it's time to go," his mother called. "Come in and brush your teeth, please." "I have a dentist appointment," Josh said. "Call me later, okay?" "Okay." Dink tossed Josh's ball into the barn and started walking away. "Hey," Josh yelled behind him. "I think your new hair color looks just adorable." "Very funny," Dink muttered, tugging his hat down even tighter. "Maybe I'll cut my hair off," he thought. "Go to school bald on Monday." Suddenly he stopped walking. Thinking about cutting his hair off gave him an idea. He ran toward Main Street. At Howard's barber shop, he peered through the glass. Howard was watching an I Love Lucy rerun on a small TV set. Dink walked in, setting off the sleigh bells hanging over the door. Whenever he came to Howard's for a haircut, Dink thought about Christmas. "What'll it be today, Dink?" Howard asked. "Want a flat top? How about one of them mohawk jobbies, with a stripe down the middle?" "I don't want a haircut," Dink said. "I need to ask you something." Howard squinted one blue eye. He lifted Dink's baseball cap. "What happened to your hair?" Dink blushed. "I was a vampire last night. I used black shoe polish in my hair and it won't come out. I tried." Howard grinned. "Hop up in the chair, me lad. I'll dose you with me special shampoo. You can ask your question while I perform a little magic." Dink hung his hat on a peg and climbed into the barber chair. Howard pulled a bottle and some white towels out of a cupboard. "I was wondering if you know any kids with red hair," Dink said, "besides Josh." Howard draped a towel around Dink's shoulders and pinned it in back. He misted Dink's hair with a spray bottle of water. "I might," he answered. "Why, do you want me to dye your hair red?" Dink laughed. "No, I'm looking for a certain kid who has red hair. I think he's a teenager." "I know one teenager who had red hair," Howard said, pouring green shampoo onto Dink's hair. "But I shaved it all off last week. Came running in here all excited, out of breath. 'Shave my head,' he tells me. So I did." The smell of the shampoo made Dink's eyes water. He felt his heart start to tap dance. Was he carrying a video camera? Dink asked. Howard rubbed the shampoo into Dink's hair. "Why all the questions about this red-headed boy?" he asked. Dink thought for a few seconds, then decided to spill the beans. He told Howard about the bank robber, about the kid with the video camera, and about the $300 the detective had promised. Howard chuckled. "Oh, now I see why the boy ran in here yelling for me to cut off all his hair. He didn't want the bank bandit to recognize him. So if I tell you this lad's name, you're going to persuade him to give you the videotape? Yes, if I can, Dink said. What about the money? Said Howard. Dink looked at Howard in the mirror. What about it? Would you be planning to share the reward with the red-headed boy? Dink grinned. Sure. We'll give him half of what we get from the detective. That sounds like a fine idea. Howard rubbed Dink's hair vigorously. Dink watched in the mirror. His hair was a slimy green mess. Does this stuff really get shoe polish out? He asked. Yup. Invented it myself, Howard said. Secret recipe. I used it once to get bubblegum out of me granddaughter's hair. It took tar out of our dog's fur, too. Howard swung the barber chair around and lowered its back. He positioned Dink's head over the sink. Close your eyes, me boy. Let's wash this gook out and see what's what. Dink liked the feel of the warm water, and Howard's fingers smoothing the shampoo out of his hair. After a few minutes, Howard sat him up and plopped a fresh towel on his head. Dry off. I think you're back to normal. Dink rubbed his hair with the towel, then looked in the mirror. He laughed out loud. You did it! Howard smiled at Dink's reflection. I should sell this stuff and make $1 million. How much do I owe you? Dink asked. This one's on me, young fella, and the boy with red hair is Lucky O'Leary. He lives over on Robin Road with his mom and his little brothers and sisters. All 6 of 'em. Nice kids, and every last one's a redhead. Howard grinned as he lowered the chair, except for Lucky, who suddenly decided to go bald. Chapter 5. He's bald? Josh said, climbing Ruth Rose's front steps. Dink had run right home from the barber shop and called Josh. Now they were picking up Ruth Rose so they could go to Robin Road together. That's what Howard said, Dink told Josh. He pushed the doorbell. So that's why we didn't spot him at the high school, Josh said. Come in! Ruth Rose screamed from inside. Ruth Rose was sitting on the floor watching a video with her 4-year-old brother, Nate. Come on, Ruth Rose. I think we found the redhead, Dink said. We're going to his house. Ruth Rose jumped up and screamed, I'm leaving with the guys, Mom. Watch Nate. Dink and Josh covered their ears. Ruth Rose told Nate, You stay right here and wait for Mommy, okay? Nate nodded and kept his eyes on the TV set. Let's go. Ruth Rose led the way back to the door and skipped down the front steps. How'd you find the kid? She asked. Dink explained how he hadn't been able to get the shoe polish out of his hair. That made me think about cutting my hair off, and that made me think about the barber shop. Who would know all the redheads in Green Lawn? Howard the barber, she screamed. The boys covered their ears again. I'm going to need a hearing aid like old Mr. Kramer, Josh muttered. Dink had looked up O'Leary in the phone book to get the address on Robin Road. They stopped in front of house number 33. It was a big blue house with toys and bikes and sneakers and basketballs all over the lawn. Loud music came out through the front door. They walked onto the porch and stepped over a baseball bat. 4 pumpkins sat in a row, all carved with scary faces. Dink rang the bell. Keep your fingers crossed, he said. A little girl opened the door. She had red hair and a face full of freckles. Hi, I'm Josephine and I'm 5.5. She held up 10 fingers. Is your brother home? Dink asked. Which one? I have this many. Josephine held up 10 fingers again. Dink laughed. Do you have a big brother named Lucky? The music went off. Who's out there, Joe? A voice called. A tall, skinny teenager wearing torn jeans and a t-shirt came up behind Josephine. Dink noticed red fuzz covering his head, like a new red lawn. Are you Lucky O'Leary? Dink asked. The kid looked down at Dink and Josh and Ruth Rose. Who wants to know? We do, Ruth Rose said. How'd you like to earn some money? I might, he said. We're looking for a kid who got the Green Lawn bank robber on video last week, Dink said. The bank hired a detective to find the video, and we're helping the detective. He's paying us to get the video, and we'll split the money with you. If you're the kid, are you? Ruth Rose asked. The kid rubbed the top of his fuzzy red head. Yeah, he muttered. I'm the guy. Then he crossed his arms. But I'm not giving my tape to any detective.